Elijah stood at the corner of Franklin and Mercer just past midnight, as if drawn there by a force too quiet to name. You saw him too, didn't you? The tall man with shoulders built like truth, and a stare heavy with things no one dares to speak aloud. He wasn't dressed like someone who needed a badge to carry authority, but somehow the silence around him bent in deference. You wouldn't know unless you were watching closely, and God knows no one was supposed to be. But you were. You are. And now it's too late to look away. Because what happened next, what you saw happen next, felt like cracking open a sealed vault of American lies. It began with a routine stop, one that's never really routine when your skin tells. Different story before you even speak. A patrol cruiser idled too long, its lights already flashing as if it had predicted guilt. A cop stepped out, swagger first, hand on hip like a man looking for a reason to pull the trigger. His name was Tyler. Everything about him screamed performative. Justice, fresh haircut, heavy jawline, and a kind of smirk that belonged more to high school bullies than to those sworn to protect. He wasn't interested in who Elijah was, just what he looked like in that moment. A black man standing still, which for Tyler was probable cause wrapped in melanin. But that's not the part that'll keep you up at night. It wasn't the aggression, the way Tyler barked orders without asking questions. No, it was what Elijah said after he showed his ID, a moment no body cam could explain. Because when the badge was revealed, not a police badge, but his, the FBI's gold crest under the fold of his jacket, Elijah leaned in, whispered something into Tyler's ear, and Tyler changed. Not gradually, instantly, as if every nerve in his body had short-circuited. His pupils shrank, his breath caught, and his knees buckled like a man hearing the voice of something ancient crawl up his spine. Then Tyler did something no trained officer has ever done in front of witnesses or cameras. He fell to his knees, dropped his gun, and cuffed himself. No sound in the city could compete with that silence. And here's where it turns, where your gut won't let go. Because when backup arrived, there was no Elijah. Not in body, not on footage. His ID wasn't scanned. His voice wasn't recorded. The FBI denied knowing any agent by that name. But the strangest part? Tyler has never spoken a word since, not even to his lawyer. He sits in a padded room sketching the same image over and over again. A single eye, wide open, bleeding down. The middle, the kind of eye that watches from somewhere else. You're not just watching a video, you're stepping into a buried memory the country doesn't want unearthed. And if what Elijah whispered can do that to a man like Tyler, what happens when you can't start to hear it too? Because the audio clip they tried to delete has just surfaced, and I think it says your name. The clip ended, but something stayed behind. A flicker, a static whisper threading through your headphones that you swear wasn't part of the original. You rewind. You listen again. It's there, just beneath Elijah's voice. A soft, cracked tone, almost like a warning but bent out of reach, swallowed by white noise. You're sure you caught it, but no one else admits it. The upload's been scrubbed clean of glitches, replaced with silence where that noise used to live. You're left holding a question nobody wants to answer. Did you hear it, or is your mind twisting under pressure? Because after all this, after watching a man vanish from reality itself, the world refuses to stay still. You start to notice the gaps, moments where your memory slips. Maybe it's exhaustion, or maybe it's something else. You can't quite recall how you found the video or who sent it. Your phone rings once, no caller ID, just a burst of heavy breathing. You swear you hear a name whispered, one you don't recognize but feel deep in your gut. And the name sticks, gnawing at the edges of your sanity. What if this isn't a story? What if it's a message? What if everything you thought you saw was a trick, something darker, playing on your fear? The kind of secret that real unsolved mysteries thrive on. The kind of truth behind what no one tells you. And then there's Grace. She appears almost too late, like a shadow slipping in from the corners of your vision. Grace claims she's been tracking Elijah, tracking Tyler, the case, the disappearances, the silence, and she knows more than she lets on. Her voice is low, urgent, But every answer she gives births two more questions. She tells you Elijah's file was wiped from the FBI's database, erased as if he never existed. But when you press her, her eyes dart away, her hands tremble, and she confesses something strange. She saw Elijah too, or thinks she did. But then he was gone, right in front of her. Maybe, she says, voice barely a whisper, he was never really there. Maybe we're all just shadows trying to grasp at a memory that doesn't belong to us. You want to trust Grace, but she's tangled in her own shadows. At times, she seems lucid, grounded in facts, but other moments, when the lights flicker or a distant siren wails, her face falters like she's slipping into a different reality. She talks about voices in her head, recordings that contradict everything she thought was true, files that vanish overnight, and a creeping fear that someone, or something, is rewriting the past. You begin to question everything. Was Elijah a ghost, a fabrication of Tyler's fractured mind, or a hidden weapon in a war no one wants acknowledged? And Grace, are her warnings the voice of reason, or the ramblings of someone unraveling under the weight of a truth that nobody can bear? The lines blur. The audio glitches in your headphones pulse louder, sinking with a sudden chill crawling down your spine. You check your phone again. Another missed call. No number. A text. Just one word. Remember. But remember what? And at what cost? The truth is no longer a destination. It's a labyrinth, and the deeper you go, the less sure you are that you'll find your way out, or that you'll want to. For a moment, you almost believed you had it, that hidden truth buried beneath. Layers of silence and erased files was finally surfacing. Grace led you to a nondescript storage room tucked away in an old government building, a place that smelled of mildew and lost secrets. Inside, among yellowed folders and dust-covered drives, you found it, a recording labeled only by a date from years ago, years before Elijah's disappearance. You pressed play, heart pounding, and there it was, the unmistakable voice of Tyler, but younger, more confident, recounting a strange encounter with a man who vanished after whispering a single word no one else heard. The same word you caught, on that glitch in the audio, the same name you can't shake loose from your mind. It felt like a key sliding into place, unlocking a mystery you were born to solve. This wasn't just a random act or a breakdown. It was part of something bigger, something deliberately buried. You sat back, relief flooding your veins as the pieces clicked. Memory glitch, yes, but a memory they tried to erase. The past had folded into the present in a way that wasn't coincidence but design. You whispered to yourself, "You're not crazy," they lied to you. That was the story you wanted, the one that made sense, the mystery uncovered, the puzzle solved. Maybe now you could sleep again. But then your eyes caught it. A faded Polaroid slipped beneath the tape recorder. A baby's face staring directly at you with eyes too old for their age. The date scribbled on the back was decades earlier, and scrawled beneath, in shaky handwriting, was the same name, the same impossible word. You traced the photo with trembling fingers, feeling the cold certainty settle deep in your bones. This was no simple coincidence. It was a loop, a shadow repeating itself across time. Something had been watching, waiting, folding the same haunting script over and over, feeding on your doubts and fears, and suddenly the room shifted. The air grew thick. The walls seemed to close in with a breath you couldn't see but felt, crawling down your spine. You weren't just uncovering a hidden truth anymore. You were awakening something that had been watching since before you were born, something that feeds on memory, on what's forgotten and remembered wrong. It was inside you, in the quiet glitches of your mind, in the moments you thought were your own but were scripted by a force too old to name. The past and present twisted together, making you question every step you took, every word you heard. You reach for your phone to record the moment, to capture the proof that maybe, just maybe, you're not alone in this, but the screen flickers and goes dark. And when it comes back on, the first video you pull up, the one with Elijah and Tyler, plays backward, frames slipping and twisting, the faces warping into something unrecognizable. Your heartbeat slows, the chill deepens, and a single thought crashes through your mind. You've been watching this story all wrong. The truth isn't what it seemed, and now you'll have to watch it again. Because everything you thought you understood is a lie waiting to be unmade. There is something you need to understand before you dive any deeper. What you are experiencing is not yours alone. You have been pulled into a current that has been swirling silently beneath the surface, carrying others like you, strangers who once thought they were isolated in their confusion and fear. But they aren't. They've been watching, waiting, piecing together fragments from the shadows while the world kept its eyes elsewhere. Some see the same glitches in their devices, hear the same fractured whispers in their sleep, and notice symbols creeping into corners of their vision, an eye half hidden in a flickering streetlight, a blurred figure in a grainy found footage. From 20 years ago, a cryptic sequence of numbers scratched into walls long after the original scrawl was supposed to fade. You are not alone. You were right all along. These others, call them the Watchers, the silent witnesses, communicate not with words, but with riddles, sharing dreams that bleed into one another, like memories half remembered and half forgotten, until the edges blur and it's impossible to tell where one mind ends and the other begins. They send encrypted images through dead channels, layers of visual code hidden inside what looks like broken broadcasts, messages that slip past the filters of ordinary consciousness and lodge themselves deep inside the subconscious. If you pay attention, you might catch them too. The fleeting shapes that vanish the moment you blink, the whispers you think come from the wind, but carry names you've never heard spoken aloud. These signs aren't random. They're a tether, a network connecting the scattered pieces of a puzzle that spans decades, woven into the fabric of everything you thought you knew. What the government never released, the files long buried or deliberately erased, begin to surface in these quiet moments, as if something bigger is trying to break through the cracks. And yet, the deeper you go, the more your grasp on your own reality begins to slip. You start to question what you are, what you remember, and whether your identity is yours at all or a construct shaped by unseen forces. Who planted the memories that feel so vivid, yet distant, like echoes from a life that was never really yours? What if your doubts and fears are not signs of madness but fragments of a larger design meant to keep you trapped inside a labyrinth of confusion and control? There is a current beneath the surface of all this, a force that watches, waits, and manipulates with a patience so vast it becomes almost eternal. It doesn't announce itself with thunder or fire. It moves quietly, methodically, weaving itself into the unseen corners of your mind, making you question whether you're the hunter or the hunted. Into this chaos steps someone else, an observer unlike any other, whose presence feels both comforting and disquieting. This is Mara, a figure whose clarity cuts through the fog like a shard of ice. She claims to have been tracking these events long before you even heard the name Elijah or saw the footage that shattered your understanding of reality. Mara speaks, not in riddles but in unsettling truths, delivering accounts that contradict everything you thought was certain. She's the only one who dares to say what no one else will, that this story isn't about a single man or even a single event. It's a living, breathing organism of deception and fear that feeds off the cracks in your mind and the secrets locked in your past. And worse, it's only getting stronger. Her voice is calm, but every word is heavy with dread, pulling you deeper into the abyss of what has been concealed and what's still unfolding. She tells of others like you, scattered across the country, each touched by the same spectral force, each haunted by fragments of memory and nightmares that bleed into daylight. You're part of this now, she says, eyes sharp with unyielding. Focus. There's no going back. Not when the truth is this close, when the cracks are spreading. You thought it was just a video, a glitch, but it's the thread pulling at the seams of your mind. And the more you resist, the tighter the grip. You listen, and as the weight of her words settles, you realize the stakes have changed. This is no longer about uncovering a mystery locked in government files or decoding cryptic messages in static. It's about wrestling with a force that reaches beyond what you can see or hear. Something that knows your name before you do. That touches your thoughts before you even think them. It's a presence that has been here from the start, hidden in plain sight, lurking in the spaces between what you remember and what you choose to forget. The silence that follows Mara's revelation is deafening, but it hums with a raw, electric energy, an invitation and a warning all at once. You are standing on the edge of something vast and unknowable, a truth that will rewrite everything you believed about identity, memory, and control. The footage you thought was the beginning now feels like a prologue, a whispered hint of a story, far greater and more terrifying than you could have imagined. And somewhere, just beyond the reach of reason, a presence watches you back. It waits for your next move. The question isn't whether you're ready, it's whether you can afford not to be. The air grew heavier as Elijah stood alone in the cold, sterile room where shadows seemed to breathe with their own life. The answers he sought, fragments of memory, cryptic messages, and faces that flickered like ghosts, suddenly felt less like clues and more like mirrors reflecting a truth he had long avoided. The mystery was never really about what happened to him or Tyler, or the vanished whispers that haunted their past. It was about why this tangled nightmare had clawed its way into his life, what it meant to be human when the foundations of identity and memory start to dissolve beneath your feet. In that moment, Elijah's heart thundered with the weight of revelation and terror. The truth he chased so desperately might not save him. It could very well shatter the fragile shell he'd built around his soul. He was faced with a choice: cling to the illusions that offered comfort or embrace the unknown, even if it meant losing himself completely. There was no half measure here. The stakes had become existential, to find meaning in chaos or to be swallowed by it. His confession was raw, whispered into the void as if speaking aloud might fracture reality itself. "I've been running, not from them, but from myself," he admitted, the words tasting bitter and yet liberating. "The silence, the shadows, they're not just out there, they've always been inside me. And maybe the nightmare isn't what happened to me, but what I never dared to face." Elijah's breath hitched as the room seemed to close in, the weight of years of forgotten pain pressing down like a physical force. The mystery had twisted from a puzzle of facts into an intimate reckoning, a philosophical crucible where identity, fear, and truth collided. It was no longer about uncovering secrets hidden in government files or cryptic recordings. It was about confronting the fragile, often painful human condition beneath it all. The hunger to be known, the terror of being erased, and the desperate hope that something real could survive in the void. As the edges of his consciousness blurred, reality folding like paper in his hands, Elijah realized that waking from this dream would change everything. Or maybe it was only the beginning of a different kind of nightmare. The line between salvation and destruction was thinner than ever, shimmering just beyond reach. And as the camera slowly pulls away, capturing the weight of this moment suspended in time, a single haunting truth lingers in the air, whispered, as if carried on the wind itself. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for stories you were never meant to hear. Until next time, remember, some truths don't want to be found.